What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another reaction with your host, the Ignorant Eclectic Mad Genius. And today we are checking out a video of why all black cartoon characters disappeared, are disappearing. My bad. I don't know the name of this exact creator, but like I usually do, the link for this original video will be in the link in the description below. Um, yeah, so hit that like, hit that sub, tell a friend, tell a friend. Let me stop talking, and let's go ahead and jump in.
And it resonated with me because I remember.
Oh, I do want to know if they're gonna be talking about like Static Shock. I don't know how many, because like I'm a 90s baby. So we had Static Shock, we had damn, fucking number 5 from Codename Kids Next Door. We had, well, Skeeter technically was black, but you know what I mean, he was like blue in the cartoon or whatever. I mean, we had a few other people. But yeah, let's check this out.
Watching Fillmore, Class of 3000, Static Shock, Tuttenstein. Yeah, remember Tuttenstein?
Oh,
But this clip
wow.
is old, like 2017 in July old. This take isn't relevant anymore. Yes. Yes, it is. Look, I'm gonna make it even madder. We currently have the same number of black cartoon protagonists on television now as we did back in 1929. One. What about Craig of the Creek? Series finale ended earlier
never
this
watched
year.
that.
Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, as of recording,
I
not
actually
greenlit
watched
for
a
a new
couple
season.
episodes of that.
My Dad the Bounty Hunter, canceled. Shouldn't we be past this? There should be black main leads everywhere. I'm not
Number
talking about
5.
the shared limelight like Jon Stewart or Jay. I'm talking full-on protagonists. There's no doubt about it. It's their show, hands down. Well, no, because as of right now, the only show that's featuring a black protagonist and currently keeping us tied with the same year that kicked off the Great Depression is a show that I grew up watching as
Proud
a
Family.
kid. The Proud Family. Except now it's been revised for newer audiences, so they're louder. And somehow prouder. This is a problem. Bias and stereotypes just scratch the surface as to why there are so few black main characters in mainstream cartoons. And while the lack of
Understood.
representation is putting a much needed spotlight on these studios, revealing some serious blind spots and unsolved questions, the worst part about it is it affects all of us, regardless of your race, age, or ethnicity. We're losing.
In my opinion, like we have the power now to create more of our own cartoons, and but the only thing is that we have to actually give viewership, give like actual what's the word I'm looking for? We have to give like actual like love to those creators who create these things, and like actually support them, and not just like automatically jump onto like some bullshit from Marvel and DC and stuff like that. And like building up those brands, like build up the smaller creators if you want to see those smaller creators continue, and also like not sell out and shit like that.
The ability to nurture our own racial identity while simultaneously developing harsh social dynamics not only amongst ourselves but each other. But to understand any of that, we need to know why black cartoon characters have had such a hard time gaining and remaining in the leading role spotlight. Well, that's simple. Negro Boy.
I do remember
I
that.
think we've established that Kaka and Tuki don't work.
More formally known as Bosco, he's the first black animated cartoon character created by
The only reason why I know that is because my stepdad was telling me about that. Tell me about some of the like cartoons and shit like that from back in the day.
Hugh Harman and Rudy Icing, who worked as animators at Walt Disney during that time. The pilot, Talk Ink Kid, aired in May of 1929, and it blew up. Not only because animation was still relatively new, but synchronized sound was super popular, which is just a technique of matching audio with whatever effects are actually happening on screen. That said, a series of short films soon followed during the 1930s. And Bosco even saw a resurgence in popularity when it was brought to the small screen in the 1950s, even still airing into the early 1990s. But why was it so popular? Well, if you've been watching the clips being shown, hey, hi, welcome back. Beyond traditional animated antics that were popular during that time, Bosco himself was a jack of all trades. More like black jack of all trades. Singing, dancing, playing any instrument with ease, Bosco was the real black deal, because let's not forget that a lot of his tropes came from black stereotypes. This was important because Bosco set the preliminary stage for what was seen as acceptable, as well as what was needed in order to capture an audience's attention when showcasing black characters. And that can be seen on full display with the Censored 11. And if you haven't seen the Censored 11, I'm really sorry what I'm about to do to you right now. Do you remember? Okay, so that was not only the opening theme to the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes, it was also their opening theme to the Merry Melody segments. Simply put, think of a short musical that hosts a variety of characters, both known and unknown in the Looney Tunes universe. As for me, I genuinely love them. I can still recite songs to this day. But unfortunately, I've had to add a few more to my memory, like Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs. As it sounds, it's a racist reimagining of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But they put duh in seven because, you know, black people don't talk good and can't articulate. And it also featured a whole host of fun characters. Prince Chawin, with his gold teeth and dice for central incisors, So White as the over-sexualized black female lead, and the dwarves, cosplaying as US soldiers because this is 1943 and we are full bore into World War II. So the war propaganda machine is in full effect, and we need all the patriotism we can get, which apparently includes over-exaggerated black stereotypes and physical features. But here's the thing you have to understand. Back then, this was a hit. The film received critical acclaim from white and black audiences alike, and Warner Brothers was praised for making it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like black people were throwing parades, but back then, pickings were slim. So if you're able to make it onto the big screen and you've got black characters being played by black voice actors too, with authentic vibes surrounding your culture, sometimes you gotta take the win. Trust me, it's better than the alternative mainstream media. And remember, this is just 1 out of 11. Goldilocks and the Jivin' Bears, Jungle Jitters, Uncle Tom's Bungalow. These are just a few films that came out between 1931 and 1944 that exaggerated black physical features, enforced stereotypes, and depicted black people as simple, dumb, and one note. So you can understand why Warner Brothers wanted to bury these as soon as they realized that racism and bigotry was real, removing whatever they could from the airways, distancing themselves from it, and basically blacklisting, haha, any of those films from ever seeing the light of day. And while that's nice and yay, racism is bad, the damage had already been done. Given the tremendous success of the film, coming from a very popular studio with audiences of all ages and races singing its praises, the Censored 11 essentially gave competitors in the industry the blueprints of how black characters were to be used. Entertainment fuel as the proverbial Jack in the Box. To spring out, make us laugh, and then, okay, that's enough. Back in your box. And this type of execution can be seen throughout the following decades. Shows like the Harlem Globetrotters and Jackson 5 were successful, but it mainly came from the popularity surrounding their real-life counterparts, while also playing to the racial tropes that were previously set in place 20-odd years ago. Not only by the cartoons themselves, but how black people were portrayed and thought of in general, i.e. simple, physically gifted, or musically talented. This also meant we weren't going to see the Jackson 5 discussing race relations while jamming out. Neither were the Harlem Globetrotters going to talk about new ways to promote equality. How could they? They were too busy fighting crime as superheroes. So these cartoons had permanent.
Jesus, do you remember that? Let me know down in the comments down below, because I remember that TV show. That and the Jacksons. I remember both of those TV shows when I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Training wheels attached, meant to stay in their lane, be entertaining, and not rock the boat with any social or political messaging. The question is now, are there any shows in existence that bypass these stereotypes and social limitations while also meeting the 3.5 rule? 3.5 rule? Did you miss something while you were eating? No, you're fine. I thought of the 3.5 rule when I was doing research for this video, because a cartoon's lifespan is only 3.5 seasons on average, even less for cartoons with black protagonists. So shows that went over 3.5 seasons with black leads were top tier, as they not only had the ability to escape the biases and stereotypes set upon them by their predecessors, but had serious cultural impact and were able to connect with all.
Shout out to him with the Liverpool thing in the back. You know what I mean? I used to rock hard for Liverpool back in the day. Now, not so much.
Audiences, regardless of race, age, or ethnicity. All that said, a show like that did exist, and ironically set in the same era as the Jackson 5 and the Harlem Globetrotters. It set a new standard for black character leads, challenged stereotypes that were set in place for generations, and even revolutionized how black characters were depicted and what they could talk about. So surely whoever came up with something so dynamic, so positive, so socially significant, must share the same values and morals as the very show they created, right? Oh God. Let's get this out of the way now. Bill Cosby is a horrible person. He drugged and innocent women, and I cannot believe he got out of his 10-year sentence. And I
you want to put him pop? Yeah.
Wish I could associate this next sentence with damn near anybody else. But he did an ungodly amount of good for black people in Hollywood and media as a whole. Of course, there were other trailblazers that came before him, but because of his role as Alexander Scott in I Spy, which made him the first leading black actor in a drama series, along with a variety of other shows he did following that, black representation and perception started to shift. They worked jobs with higher statuses like doctors and lawyers. People were being introduced to small instances of black culture, and most importantly, importantly, at least in the industry's eyes, Cosby showed that there was a market for this type of television. So when he came to CBS with the idea about a cartoon centered around him and his friends getting into wacky adventures in Philadelphia, he got the green light. But unlike other cartoons with black leads that came before it, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids were dynamic. Fat Albert was athletic, wise, able to lead, but also ask for advice and guidance when needed. And while the others in their crew weren't as completely fleshed out, they too had their own style, humor, thoughts, and ways to contribute in a positive way. This wasn't slapstick, stereotypical humor with no real plot and one-note storytelling. There was depth. Each episode had Fat Albert and the crew helping each other, friends, or classmates through real-life situations like divorce, interracial relationships, even alcoholism. And remember, this was in the 1970s. Conversations about these topics were difficult, so to be discussed on a television show geared towards children was quite significant. But through colorful and dynamic characters, great storytelling, and an understanding of how to present serious subject matters in an easily digestible way, Fat Albert was a runaway success, spanning 8 seasons from 1972 to 1985. And yes, Bill Cosby was a big name, did voices in the show, and had cameos throughout the episodes, but it wasn't called Cosby and the Crew. Fat Albert took main billing. And he wasn't real, just a creation loosely based off of one of Bill's childhood friends. But they made him a star when they very easily could have had the show center around Bill Cosby alone. So this was a really nice in-between for black cartoon protagonists in television. You got the popularity of a star to give the show legs, but you're not resting on your laurels. And you're challenging the cookie-cutter format traditionally associated to black characters. And you're successful. So how did we plateau? The show was revolutionary compared to all cartoons, black or otherwise. So if that's roughly 40 or 50 years ago, then why do we not have black cartoon leads everywhere in television? Well,
because the entities that were, now this is just my thought process, the entities that are in power, they don't want you or me or anybody else to have those, they don't want you looking at how can I say this? Basically being inspired, you know what I mean? And from what I know, that certain people, like white skin sells better overseas than it does anywhere else. You know what I mean? Because everybody wants the main character to be white and everything else. Just look at anime. You know what I mean? Like, how many really black animes do you see that have like prominent like black anime characters that are like the main character? And I'm not talking about some of the fire ass side characters. Like, we got Fire Force, we got Black Clover, we got dope ass black characters. We got well, everybody kind of knows Cowboy Bebop was black, but that's neither here nor there. We got Afro Samurai, we got a bunch of other a bunch of them, but still.
Well, an analysis came out in 1992 about television series with minority-led characters. It was called An Analysis of Television Series with Minority-Led Characters. And it looked into 3 big networks, CBS, ABC, and NBC between 1950 to 1991. Now, it's no surprise, in the 50s and 60s, minority-led TV shows were basically non-existent, except for NBC. They literally weren't existent. But all that changed in the 80s when the numbers across the board increased exponentially. And if we look closer, black representation started to increase specifically between 1972 to 1981, rising from 6.2% to 9% for males and 5.2% to 6.2% for females. What's interesting is while their presence rose, their major or lead roles they played plummeted, decreased, jumping down from 9.6% to 2.4% for males and 4.6% to 1.6% for females. But why this sudden increase with a subsequent decrease?
Monsters do have their place in the zoo, in your nightmares, but not in your living room. Pay TV and cable TV companies are seeking the right to charge you for the very programs you now get free. Sign the petition in the lobby of this theater. Let your lawmakers know how you feel in the fight against pay TV and...
Yes, it seems like even the most terrifying of creatures, the pink carnivorous Tristegosaurus, wasn't enough to stop TV patrons from switching over to cable, putting these networks in a bind. They were losing customers left and right and had to pivot, marketing to a new demographic. So who didn't have the disposable income for cable and cassette
Black
recorders
families.
and watched 40% more network fare than their white counterparts? Black people. But these networks had to play it smart. They didn't want to completely alienate their white audiences, but they needed to capitalize on this untapped market. So they found a middle ground by adding more black representation, but not too black, avoiding all that confusing ethnic culture that white audiences might not understand and have to learn about. So they found the best of both worlds. Black audiences were just happy to see more people like them on TV, and white audiences could have the same social content with the glorification of white norms and values in their media. And these networks had a variety of different success in their programs. The experiment had paid off, but that's all it ever was. An experiment. Besides NBC, who had doubled down in the 80s, both ABC and CBS cut back significantly on minority-led television. And given that the numbers from 90 to 91 would be skewed due to not covering a full decade, you'd hope that it would be a fluke, that after this dip, CBS and ABC would follow suit and get back on black track like NBC did in the 80s. But you'd be wrong. In fact, it was the opposite that happened. NBC was the one to follow those other two networks, cutting back on their minority-led television programs. So when these big broadcasters were struggling, they turned to black audiences. And once they were able to learn, adapt, and evolve, either by starting their own cable services, merging with competitors, or practicing broadcast syndication, they cut the very shows that kept them afloat. And by not going back to the time when large percentages of black characters had lead roles, the black protagonist role all but disappeared. Just look at where black leads are played on television today. Yes, these networks may still create shows like Empire, Mixed-ish, Blackish, or Grownish, but that's it. Majority are found on black-owned networks or broadcast stations specifically targeted at black audiences. And that's great, happy to have it, but it's not enough. Now, I'm sure at some point you went, well, these are real-life TV shows, not cartoons. Aren't there differences in the data surrounding that? A fair question. The only problem is, what data? Finding well-researched information about cartoons in the same vein doesn't really exist, but I don't really think it needs to. For one, the sample size would be far too small to produce any type of meaningful results, which speaks volumes in and of itself. But also, this is the only real information you need. In this context, I view cartoons as the most authentic form of where these big broadcast companies' true intentions lie, because cartoons take a really long time to create. Just ask. There's script writing, storyboarding, character design, and sure, you need those for live action too, but you don't need an entire team to animate every single thing you're going to see on screen. So when one of these networks decides to greenlight an animated show, especially one with a black lead, best believe they've looked under every rock to give it the best chance of being successful and not
Wow, if you know, you know. Damn, shout out to Boomerang.
wasting money. So just like the slump that happened to shows with minority-led characters in the 70s, 80s, and beyond, the same fate was set for black-led cartoons. And while the 90s and early 2000s had some unicorns that were able to make it past that 3.5 rule ceiling, or just real lasting impression on its audience, the number of shows leveled off, plateauing, never really peaking over 4 or 5 at any given time. So given that these networks have all this power, the most logical answer is to change what they prioritize. To make it easier to understand, let's take a single one of these networks and think of it like a s'more. You've got graham crackers, marshmallows, and chocolate. Perfect. Now let's get this s'more and enjoy. No, this is terrible. There's not enough chocolate. Hold on. Ugh, no, wait, still not enough. No, add more. More. Seriously, get more. More! We stick with what we know, and in this case, create what we know. And if you thought black cartoon characters came few and far between, finding black creators in this space is like finding Waldo, except you're blindfolded. And someone gave you a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. Talking about books I had to read the spark notes of in school, let's talk about school. Like Massachusetts College of Art and Design, one of the top art schools for animation in the country. With an enrollment rate of 50.7% white, 13.6% Hispanic or Latina X, 6.6% Asian, 4.69% multiracial, 3.51% black or African American, and less than 1% being Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islands, American Indian, or Alaskan Natives. Well, that's just one. How about California Institution of Arts and 4.
And that's most likely because literally it's only forced on our community that we can be a rapper, a ball player, or anything else like that. But literally it's been changing. Thank God it's been changing. That, you know what I mean, we could do way more than that. You know what I mean? Like, the options are endless now, especially with AI and everything else.
5.8% enrollment.
But we still do need people to push that out that look like us to the next generation and to the young kids and stuff like that.
Of black people. At least Savannah College Art and Design is putting up numbers with 11%. Savannah, you're in Georgia. You have a population of over 50% black people. Chocolate City is a hop and a Hulk skip. Yeah, There's quite a few reasons why there's a lack in black representation in schools that prioritize animation. Not having the funds to be able to afford top-tier equipment or a lack of access to certain programs or workshops can greatly affect your ability when competing against other candidates. But if you're wondering, how do we live in a world where I don't have to touch buffalo wings with my bare fingers and still be able to eat them, but black people still have the lowest median income out of white, Asian, and Hispanic people? Let me introduce you to any history book, anywhere, at any time, post 1957. Even once you're inside the school, it's not like these programs are focused on teaching you the styles and techniques utilized with the Harlem Renaissance or the Black Arts movement. Sure, I found courses like race, erasure, and inequality, but this wasn't shocking, especially since they were a drop in the bucket compared to all the other courses in general. And it makes sense. Schools are a business. The more students that can be converted into the job market post-graduation, the more reputable and sought after the university becomes. If the market was producing a bunch of black-inspired animation in film or television, sure, they'd incorporate it with the basic skills of animation with this blackness in mind. But it's not there, so this is a moot point. But let's say you make it through. You're the lucky 11, 4, 3%, and that's assuming everyone enrolled is going to graduate. And now you're looking for work, ready to make your mark and change the world. Well, that's going to be kind of hard too. Like anyone looking for work in your given field after you graduate college, you need experience. I know, it's stupid. How can I have experience if I don't get experience?
Exactly.
Let's move on. And connections, especially in this career, dealing in television, media,
In all careers, not just this one, all careers.
just
for real.
Hollywood in general. It's ruthless. So getting a leg up on the competition by having a mentor or networking opportunities to get your foot in the door can be a huge advantage. But finding a seasoned vet in that space is hard. Black creators are relatively new to this industry, and for good reason. Besides the previous point we mentioned, it's not like any of them are going to get hired in the 40s or 50s. And even if they were, who's going to want to make this racist nonsense? So there's not a lot of black producers, animators, directors, stylists that have been in the industry for an extended amount of time who can make significant changes from the top or even in the middle, who can help vouch for or onboard other black creators. And it doesn't take much to make significant impact even with the smallest of changes. Take Floyd Norman, the godfather of black animators. He had a true passion for animation and studied all throughout high school and college. And he was so talented that he was picked up by Walt Disney after 2 years of study at the Art Center College of Design, becoming their first black Disney animator. A few years later, he helped bring Leo Sullivan, another black animator and newly graduated student looking for work, onto the Disney animation team. After working together for some time, they realized they had shared interests and values, deciding to take the knowledge they acquired working at Disney to leave and start their own studio, Vignette Films Incorporated, which sparked 6 animated films about black history and black historical figures, created the legendary Soul Train logo, and in 1969 produced an animated special on NBC that was loosely based on the life of a popular comedian and actor as they recalled their time growing up with their friends in the inner city neighborhoods of Philadelphia. Needless to say, even the smallest spark can create the largest of fires. But sometimes these networks control the spark in the form of tokenization and tight casting. A few years back, Netflix released an all-black virtual roundtable, which I'm going to reference heavily in this segment. It was comprised of various black figureheads in the animation industry, from directors to color designers and producers. This included the late Jack Knight, who was a comedian and actor who also wrote for and starred in the hit Netflix sitcom Big Mouth. During the roundtable, he spoke of how the industry uses heavy tokenization when it comes to black people. He even comments on himself potentially having the very job he had because Nick Carroll, creator of Big Mouth, saw him be funny somewhere. He continued by stating that only a queer black could do this or cookie cutter black could do that. So this keeps black people restricted from specific projects, tasks, storyboarding, etc. But this isn't equal across the board. There are countless examples of white individuals writing, producing, and directing black stories and even voicing black characters. But it shouldn't take the likes of Jenny Slate, who played Missy in the very same show as Jack, to step down from her role, as she started to feel more uncomfortable voicing this character, especially given the more black-focused stories that were planning on taking Missy during this upcoming season. Stating on Instagram, black characters on an animated show should be played by black people. Additionally, there can be challenges to being black in this space that are a bit more nuanced and hard to explain. Like Brie Henderson, who's a color stylist for Netflix and was a part of the panel as well, spoke to the climate she was currently working in at the time of recording, as the video had been released in July of 2020, so George Floyd had been murdered no less than a few weeks ago at this point. And she spoke about how she feels like there are eyes on her with whatever she's creating or finalizing in her design, overanalyzing to see if it's too political or too pro-black. And you can sit there and go, that's just her opinion, it's all in her head. But for one, no, it's not, because people are looking to get mad about stuff like this all the time. Because God forbid, I don't know, a game.
Even in content especially in content creation, you can be a big dude like myself, you feel me? And you can get hate off of just like I'll just use this for as an example. One of my last videos that I posted last week or whatever, I said if they stole the phone, that is a felony. And what I meant or how I meant it is exactly the same. Like if you have a phone, if your phone is over, I think it's like every state has a different what's the name, but if let's just say your phone you got an iPhone or something like that, and you spend like $25,000 plus that $25,000 plus you have credit cards on your phone plus some people have like crypto and investments and stuff like that, the cash apps and everything else, that's other money. And if people were to be able to get that phone to be able to open it up and use those things, that is a felony because it's over a certain amount of money. And oh boy, you're stupid, da 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 da, and I'm just like, oh man, hey, it is what it is.
Studio has 2 minority leads in their open world stealth game. It's a game about assassins and everyone loses their minds. And
I mean, also the new God of War that's coming out. People are losing their minds over the I forgot what his wife's name is, but basically her being the main character and it being her story now. Like we're going through with her story now, and people just went crazy.
2, I 100% relate.
I'm not gonna lie to you though, the animation for the or like the reanimation for what people said the game that was going to look like was wild. Like shout out to those people that prompt that because like that was crazy.
Fight to find a black person that can't, who isn't acutely aware of their actions or the words that they say, where they say them, when they say them, and who's around them. And it can be so frustrating because majority of the time, black people in these spaces are just trying to tell stories. There's no black Illuminati hidden agenda. When Peter Ramsey, co-director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, spoke of bringing Miles Morales to life and the challenges faced given that it wasn't Peter Parker, the hurdles he spoke of related to Miles the character, where he lived, who his parents were, what music he listened to, what did his clothes and hair look like. That's not to say him and his team were ignorant. Peter even mentions that there was a lot of conversation around him being Black Spider-Man or Afro-Latino Spider-Man, but he says that the most important aspect is that Miles was a fully fleshed out character, getting the audience to fall in love with the new Spider-Man when majority of them didn't know anything about Miles other than the fact that he got bit by a radioactive spider. And I think this statement by him best summarizes how a lot of black people in this industry think. We just want to tell real stories about real people who happen to be black or, you know, Hispanic or Asian or whatever, but we want the license to be able to display the full spectrum of everything with characters who come out of our experiences or experiences like ours. Being black, or any minority for that matter, allows for different perspectives, cultures, and experiences to be talked about and brought to the center stage. Not every experience of a black character is going to be deep fried in oppression and racism, but sometimes it comes with the territory when you're talking about a character that, dare I say, isn't Western European. Regardless, this is where we're at. Limitations are being set far too high and causing a barrier to entry, and less people are able to climb the ladder, thus making it difficult to create any lasting changes. Thankfully and luckily, I've been able to see some amazing workarounds. More black animators are utilizing existing platforms to either promote themselves or others. Black studios and support programs are popping up to give black people in the industry a fighting chance, which includes these big studios too, but in their case, I don't know, man, it seems kind of showy, because clearly there hasn't been much significant change, so I'm not holding my breath there. Please understand, this is not a bash white people segment.
Eddie.
I think at some point we knew I was going to have to bring up these ideas because there are some imbalances, let's call them. Inequality. But look, we're all trying to make it in whatever field we're pursuing. I get it. And those starting on level 1 have no control over what advantages or disadvantages are being set on level 100. And to be fair, even some of those on level 100 are doing what they can to either onboard more black people to flourish in the industry, regardless of if the story has black characters, or they're doing what they can to produce, direct, and create stories with black characters. But it's clearly not enough. A lack of black creators is a lack of black characters. And no matter what levers are or aren't being pulled, the results are the same. A lack of representation. Let's just ask it, who cares? Why does there have to be black cartoon representation in our media? Well, representation in media media in general affects our ERD, or ethnic racial development. Even as young as 6 months old, we can show preference towards faces that look like ours in terms of ethnicity and race. And as we get older, our ability to adapt and change how we perceive race and ethnicity only grows more and more. A great example of this can be seen in the doll test. If you didn't watch it during social studies, it's fine, I'll explain. It's basically an experiment to see how children, usually between the ages of 3 to 6, perceive race psychologically. It's done by taking two dolls, one black and the other white, and then asking a series of questions like, which doll is good, which doll is bad, which is ugly, which is pretty. And what results have shown is that regardless of when or where it was conducted, what the race of the children were in the experiment, time and time again, the black doll was associated with negative connotations. So you can see how important it can be, even before hitting double digits, that we understand race and ethnicity and have a positive association regardless of skin tone.
That's why, I'll be honest with you, I've had a couple different conversations, but that's why literally I try not to put my people down, even though guaranteed there's a lot of ignorant shit that be happening that I've called out, and I'm like, yo, I'm not cool with any of that. But also, like, not even just for my race, but just for like the Latin race or the Asian race and everything else. You know what I mean? Just like, yo, love who you are. Like, you ain't gonna, like, I understand that you want to be like some another individual, but learn who you are. Love yourself first before you love anybody else.
12 and 14 is when we start to think about what we can and cannot achieve socially and professionally, depending on our race and what we've seen. This is also when we start to become significantly aware of stereotypes, racism, prejudice, and how those around us handle it. And by 15 and beyond, we're basically fully cooked. What you've experienced and learned up until now is what you're going to apply to yourself and others actively. And I'd say that this age is so key because while we're still curious and questioning so much around us, we're also in this race to get to adulthood. We're quick to apply any answers we receive to our questions and curiosity to our own values and beliefs, which is why I agree so much with what the study stated towards the end. Explicit instruction seems to support all young people in making sense of racial privilege and inequality as structural realities rather than solely individual choices and solutions. When you think about this and consider how many hours of cartoons are consumed by young adults and kids on a daily basis, you start to understand why having variety in your characters is important. From young to old, they are learning, perceiving, and applying what they see to real life. To make it more black and white, exposure to black TV characters was seen to help black elementary school girls feel more positive about their status, appearance, and happiness. And it helped black high school students in general have a more satisfying outlook toward their appearance. As for white audiences, they can develop fear and anxiety about interracial contact, use stereotypes in judging other races, and even avoid constructive behavior with other ethnicities if they are exposed to negative and stereotypical portrayals of minority groups. And these negative habits aren't being developed just because you're watching another episode of David Duke and the Devilish Dalmatians. It's the presence or lack of minority characters alone that can dictate
I just seen what he did. He has his toes blurred out. That's
how we
hilarious.
view society, who we associate which groups have value, and who should or shouldn't be respected. It's clear, cartoons have an obscene amount of power. The very fact that you clicked on this video proves that. They're able to tell well-written stories with amazing visuals and short run times to accommodate for our goldfish-sized attention spans. But most importantly, they can speak to any demographic at any age. So no, Grandma, I'm not gonna outgrow this. Toei Animation is finally nearing their time off, and if Oda can just lock in, we can close the book on the greatest manga and anime ever created, even excluding adult cartoons. These shows have been getting better and better at accommodating all ages, given the fact that these studios have always been aware that a lot of their audience members may include adults and parents. They've only been improving upon their ability to entertain a vast amount of demographics. Why else do you keep rewatching Gravity Falls, Adventure Time, and Steven Universe? And when fall rolls around, you keep thinking of
potatoes and molasses.
These shows and their characters have the ability to have deep messaging, speaking past the 8 or 12-year-old who may be watching it for the cool characters and funny jokes, and speaking directly to us, just trying to get by. Wanting desperately to break free of this endless cycle of consumerism, capitalism, and social status. But knowing that it fuels me, it drives me to climb the ladder, to achieve, to want more, and need more, even though in turn I am only playing into the very hands in which I despise. And you know what's wild? As much influence and social commentary as these cartoons have, I'd say cartoons with black leads have that tenfold. While they too can sneak in a silly joke here or a life take there, where they really thrive is the ability to tell stories of culture, perspective, and life experiences that are unique to black people. Sure, I remember the Jimmy episode in Static Shock that was about gun violence and school shootings, but I remember the Sons of Our Fathers episode way more, when Virgil goes to his best friend Richie's house for the first time after realizing that Richie had never invited him over, just to find out the disappointing reason why. Richie's dad is a bigoted racist. Or how about in Teen Titans when Cyborg calls Starfire an alien word that has been used to address her by another character during the entire episode, just to find out that the word is actually very hateful and hurtful. And when Starfire asks him if he too understands what it's like to be judged just by how you look, he answers,
"Of course I do. I'm part robot."
Whoa, calm down, Jamal.
I loved that scene because we knew. My only gripe is I just wish Cartoon Network would have fully committed and not been cowards about it. Especially since later that year, they came out with one of the best and most pro-black cartoons to ever grace the small screen, which involves two inner city black kids that were transplanted into white suburbia so they, you know what I'm gonna say, like I'm gonna make a video about this topic and not include
I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual, the inspiration that made ladies in the blue.
Boondocks is a masterpiece. If you're black,
Yes.
you're contractually obligated to watch it as much as you are to watch Friday. And if you're any other race or ethnicity and somehow haven't seen it, go now.
Check it out.
You can pause the video, just open up another tab. I'll be here.
You back it?
Hiya! Did I get you? No? Okay. All right. Where were we? Right. The Boondocks, S tier. Why? Well, besides them redefining what a cartoon could be black or otherwise, Aaron McGruder, their creator, was able to explore American racial dynamics through the lens of black people both interracially and intraracially. And while he had his challenges going from paper to premiere, he finally got the go-ahead from Adult Swim. And the two black restrictions that those big networks set decades ago in the 70s and 80s that created creative limitations and mundane vanilla black characters was shattered, as the Boondocks were unapologetically black. And while they had their controversies and hate because of that reason and many others, they had love and appreciation more than anything. The show was and always will be an undeniable success. This is what can happen when, for one, you have a genius like Aaron McGruder, but also when you have talented people who are passionate and creative, with a network that's not willing to let bias, ignorance, and arrogance run their decision making. What's sad is we may never know if there are creators as talented as Aaron that are even gonna make it to the starting line. Because unfortunately, the response he gave to this question back in 1999.
Are there any other African American?
Syndicated cartoonists?
Yes.
There are about 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Is still relevant today, whether it's animators, directors, producers, or cartoon characters themselves.
I know. Free.
It's amazing to me that this topic still holds up. I mean, we're coming up on the 100th anniversary of the first black cartoon character on television, and we're still having the same conversations, dealing with the same restrictions and limitations. It's getting old. There's a lack of faith when it comes to black characters and creators, for that matter, being able to lead a series, even though there's evidence that contradicts that very idea. When shows fail, any show, one of the biggest factors is when you as a network, studio, whatever, tries to control everything, whether that be the creative freedom of the creators or the characters that they make. When you look at Hollywood or media today, I just feel like there's this creative palette fatigue, like a bunch of reimaginations, sequels, or unasked for live adaptations. Trust me, if keeps going as it is, it's gonna get a live adaptation. There's just too many examples of dumping so many resources in the same direction, even if it starts turning into a sunk cost fallacy situation. And I know these studios and networks want to take as few risks as possible, but do we really need 4 Toy Stories with the 5th on the way? Can't Pixar take all that time, energy, and money and put it into another franchise that hits big and then they can milk that for 30 years?
They can't just be the reason why I believe that they don't do that is because the IP, like they own that IP and they can milk that IP as much as possible, and also they already have a built-in fan base, so that built-in fan base is automatically going to be is going to go there to check that movie out. That's the main reason why.
Speaking of movies, there's a reason I decided to focus on television or television adjacent exclusively. While it is amazing seeing black cartoon characters as protagonists in the movie space, at least for me, television has more longevity. Like, for some reason I'm not willing to watch a full movie for its hour-and-a-half to 2-hour runtime, but willing to eclipse that cranking through hours of an episode on a TV series. TV is short and has replayability. I don't need a full story to follow all the time. I can enjoy watching characters for 20-ish minutes fumble around and make me laugh, cry, think, whatever. Cartoons, unlike regular television, can be whatever you need them to be. If Rick and Morty want to have an episode about the fragility of life and focusing on the importance of owning one's mistakes and knowing that no one is free of consequence, while also having an episode of Rick turn himself into a pickle to go on the completely unnecessary adventure of criminal organizations and rats just to avoid family counseling, no one's gonna really bat an eye. You do that with Severance, it might be a little jump the sharky. Cartoons allow for characters to be seen in any light, whether that be professionally, socially, educationally, or superhero-y. And if you're savvy enough, you can even have them, I don't know, care about the character, their culture, their environment, the world they were brought into, and teach them things they may have never known about. Take Will and Grace, not a cartoon, but a beloved sitcom that shot the LGBTQIA community into the mainstream, while also helping with prejudice and hate towards that community. Because I know, we love to think that we just magically become better as a society, understanding the ridiculousness of judging or acting against other people because they don't think and behave in the way we do. But that's not the case. That's not how we are. Things have to be normalized in our society. We have to connect with others emotionally before we can even consider understanding their perspective. And through their creative writing, storytelling, and beautifully fleshed out characters, that's exactly what the show did for people of that community. They were being represented in a way that connected all audiences, gay, straight, bi, whatever, and on primetime television no less. And while it was in no way perfect, it was a huge contributing factor to society's shift in perspective, giving pause to how they think about and treat others. Now think about that for a second. They were able to do that with adults. Cartoons can do that with adults, teens, kids, you name it. If Hollywood wants to be lazy but still have a fresh spin on things, you can tell similar stories but with characters that have different backgrounds, giving you the ability to dive into new perspectives with challenges and differing cultures. Because needless to say, black characters are simply a subcategory to the much bigger problem. Watch. Name one Hispanic female cartoon character. That's a lead. If you said Dora the Explorer, congratulations.
That's oh no, I wouldn't say, well, yeah, technically she is, but no, she's not Mexican. I was thinking of the Jackie Chan's niece in the Jackie Chan cartoon series.
You're racist. No, because she's actually a multi-ethnic Latina girl. Her mother is from Peru, and her father is a combination of both Cuban and Mexican. And if you're going, isn't Hispanic and Latinx the same thing? You're proving my point. There's a serious lack of representation when it comes to ethnicity, race, sexuality, gender, and physical differences, to name a few. And it may seem silly to you, but guess what? Kids become adults. And guess what adults do? Make decisions. Some that are great and others that are terrible. So many times the poor choices that we make that are wrapped in a lack of empathy comes from a place of ignorance and arrogance. And while cartoons may not change the world, they can help in normalizing others' lives, letting society dictate how they want to proceed moving forward with the information that they now have. And even if there's a small chance in change, isn't that worth it? For those of you that want to make a stink about there being a change to a movie, cartoon, or video game character, complaining that these companies are too woke or having an SJW agenda, saying things like, if they're going to change Ariel from white to black when they go live action, they better have the same energy about Tiana when they go live action. We're talking about the same Tiana.
My thing with that one is the only time it gets race swapped is when like the Caucasian character has red hair or whatever, because they did the exact same thing in the Flash. When they went to live action or whatever, what was it? Kid Flash, they made him a black guy and everything else. And it's just like, bro, we black people have so many dope characters that don't really get a lot of screen time. And if they do get a lot of screen time, X-Men First Class, they get killed off in the first 25 minutes. Other than that, oh yeah.
The first and currently only black Disney princess. If you're that upset, please ask yourself, who does this hurt? And if no one, why are you mad? And if you still can't answer this question,
how many fucking black cartoon characters is it on TV right now? I name 5. I'll give you time.
Maybe take a time out.
All right, y'all. Let me know down in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on this? Hit that like, hit that sub, tell a friend, man. And also, the original video will be in the link in the description like I always do. Love each and every last one of y'all, man. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.